Welcome to another episode of Meal Prep Monday. I'm your host, Allison Schaaf, and today we are talking about efficiency again. So if you listened to the previous efficiency episode, you know this was a request that I got on Instagram, and the request I got was very vague. And so there is a lot that I can talk about when it comes to efficiency and your meals. So I'm turning this into a 3-part series, a little mini series. And just because I do think this is like so important to think about when it comes to your meals. And there's a lot that you can be doing to make sure that mealtime is more efficient. Like why spend more time on meals than is necessary? That's something that we have really spent a lot of time over the past 8+ years of building Prep Dish, like trying to figure out. So I am sharing some of those takeaways and hacks with you in this little 3-part series. So today specifically, I want to talk about batching. I will link some episodes that I've done in the past on the topic of batching, but I thought it was good. We haven't really done a batching episode for a while, and it's just so important to remind you of the importance of batching and give you some ideas for that, because that's kind of one of the core tenets when it comes to meal prep is the fact that like if you do like similar things all at the same time and kind of batch those together, it really does can make a big difference in making your life more efficient. So I am going to walk through some ideas on things that you can batch when it comes to meals. And first, I'm going to start with breakfast, and then I'm going to go on to meals. And these are great things. Like if you're a Prep Dish subscriber, you'll notice like a lot of these are things that we're already doing. And then if you're not, this will give you some insight, and you can take this and do this kind of in your own life. And even if you are a subscriber, there's probably some things you can do kind of outside of the meal plans we provide to just have kind of some extras that are batched and ready to go. Okay, so when it comes to breakfast, what can you batch? So there's 2 different ways to approach this. One is to just like, okay, let me make a bunch of breakfast items for the upcoming week. And, you know, some ideas there are just like making a big pot of oatmeal or, you know, chopping up some different veggies to have for hashes to like serve with eggs on top, or, you know, making a frittata that you can like eat. Maybe you eat that on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I like to alternate my breakfast. I know some people are okay eating the same thing. So it kind of depends. The frequency of how you eat things depends on your tolerance for that. So yeah, those are ways that you can do some batching just kind of for the immediate week coming up. But when I look at batching breakfast, I really like to look at using my freezer. And some ideas here are to put together meals that work really well for batching breakfast in the freezer are smoothie bags. So if you're drinking smoothies and that's like one of your go-to breakfasts, that is a really great one to batch that people don't think about. You can get a bunch of baggies. You can either there's stasher bags that work really well for this, or you can just get like the Ziploc baggies or, you know, a container of some sort. But, you know, spend like 30 minutes, pull out all of the ingredients you put in your smoothie, and then, you know, make little individual baggies and put all those ingredients in there and then freeze them. One thing that is helpful when you do this is to freeze them first in like a single layer and then come back and like put everything in the baggie. So that way it doesn't all clump together, because sometimes I've had the issue of like clumping and then getting it to, you know, blend together is like a challenge. So that's a little tip there. But those smoothie baggies can really make your mornings a lot easier. So that's one to do. This is one that I just did recently, is we had our freezer challenge at Prep Dish, and one of the recipes on there was breakfast burritos. And I think I might have like tripled the recipe and made 30 plus breakfast burritos. And the thing I like about batching some of the breakfast items that are a little hardier is they work great for breakfast, but hey, if I need a lunch or a snack that's more filling, those breakfast items work great for that too. So burritos are a good one. Muffins are a good one. And when I say muffins, you can do like more of a kind of, blueberry muffin, like a sweet muffin. Zucchini muffins are ones that we have at Prep Dish that we do a lot. But you can also do frittata muffins. These are ones that I really like to do because it's really usually just eggs and vegetables. Sometimes I'll do like a potato or sweet potato one to get some carbs in there as well. But those are really nice to have in the freezer. And again, all of these are, batching your meals and making things more efficient. And then when it comes to meals for the week, so how do you make your meals for the week more efficient by batching? Well, one is just to batch like ingredients, right? So one would be a grain, so like if you're going to have, say, a rice pilaf, make that rice pilaf on Sunday, make a big batch, and then that way you can have it on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Again, I like to alternate the days so it doesn't feel like I'm just eating the same meal every time. And another thing is like when you're doing a big batch of your grain, for example, you can switch up what you're serving it with. So maybe the first day you have it with salmon and then the next day you have it with pork. Well, it doesn't feel like you're having the same meal. Okay, so the grain, you can do a big batch of protein. Something I like to do there is like a roast or something along those lines. And you'll notice with our meal plans, we do this sometimes, right? Like we'll do like barbacoa, like a big barbacoa kind of roast thing, and then use it as a bowl one day, maybe in tacos the next day or over a salad one day. So that way you kind of change up how you use it, but you've only had to prepare that protein once. So that batching has made things a lot more efficient because you're not having to make a protein each night for dinner. One thing, we talked about this in the previous episode, but chopping your vegetables all at once is a huge time saver and a really good way to batch your meals. And they don't even have to be the same vegetables. So like, maybe you're having zucchini and broccoli and asparagus and like a few different things for the week. Even though you're chopping different things, it's still more efficient to do it all at once because you're only pulling out your cutting board, you're only using your knife, you're only doing that one time. And it doesn't take that much more time to do it. And it's just way faster than doing it, every single night, pulling out your cutting board and starting from scratch. So, that's one way to make your meals for the week more efficient, is just kind of batch some of the ingredients that you're going to have for that week. But another thing that you can do is to freeze items. And if you have listened to this podcast or you're a Prep Dish subscriber, either on our free newsletter or, if you use our meal plans, I'm a big fan of sticking things in the freezer when I can. So if there is a recipe that I know freezes well, I have been known to double, triple, even quadruple that recipe. So that way I'm making it once and I can eat it twice. And if you put it in the freezer, then you don't have to have it that same week. So you could pull it out a month later. It feels like a fresh new meal, but you don't have to do any work because it's already done. Something that this is really good for is anything that's like a casserole. So lasagna, shepherd's pie, anything like that, those freeze really well. And so when I make anything, any sort of casserole, I will make extra and put some in the freezer. Something people don't think about sometimes is sauces. So pesto, chimichurri, marinades, all of those sauces. Especially like if there's a lot of ingredients, or like you buy it and you end up with like this huge bunch of parsley and you're making a marinade and you're like, well, I don't want to toss half this parsley. Well, just double the recipe and freeze half of it. And the next time you want to marinade, you'll have a parsley marinade in your freezer. So, use this concept for sauces. And then any super stew that I make, this is something I always like to have extra so I can just stick half of it in my freezer. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of ways that you can batch to be more efficient with your meals. This week, I would challenge you to just kind of keep this in the back of your mind. And when you're making something, just like think about it like, hey, could I make more of this so my future self will thank me later and go for it. I'd love to hear from you. So I'm at Prep Dish on Instagram, or we also have a Facebook group that I will link in the show notes. If you have sort of an aha this week of like, oh, I wasn't batching this and I could have been, or like I took my breakfast item and instead of like doing this every day, I like do it once a week. I will do a bonus. And this just came to my mind, but if you take more than 1 or 2 supplements a day, that is my challenge to you, is like go out, buy a little supplement, the weekly supplement case or the pill box or whatever, and do that each week. So that is something that I did kind of like, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And that was like a big game changer. Because before I was like opening all these bottles and taking these supplements every morning. So supplements are a really good one to batch and make your mornings way more efficient. So there you go. Okay, that's all I have for this week. Again, if you do want to try out our meal plans that have all of these efficiencies like done for you, you can just head to prepdish.com/MPM. That's short for Meal Prep Monday, and try out 2 weeks for free. If you are a longtime listener of this podcast and have not yet left us a rating or review, I would really appreciate it. It just helps more people to find this podcast. Okay, that's all I have for this week. I'll be back next week to talk efficiency once more.